Alright guys, with Raw Russell here, and I know it's been a long time since I did a video, but today is NXT Takeover Day, and that means I've got to do a video. So I literally just finished watching the show. I was about an hour behind. I went out tonight with some friends to celebrate their anniversary, so I had to watch the show a bit later, so I've only just finished it, literally 10 minutes ago. I'm tired, so if I forget anything, please don't shout at me. Been a long day, and I am immensely tired, but I thought I would get this review up now, so I get all my initial thoughts out there. NXT Takeover Wargames to me is kind of a troubling show, because it's probably the worst built takeover in years, just because they have built more towards Survivor Series tomorrow night, or tonight I suppose, going off the time it is now. And that has hampered the show quite a lot. I do think that there was always quality on this show. There's only 4 matches on the show. I do think it, in retrospect, it should have had another one. You could have put the pre-show match, which was Angel Garza, which is Garza Jr., and Isaiah Scott, Shane Strickland. You could have put that on the main show and given them maybe 10-12 minutes to have a really good match, as opposed to what they had on the pre-show, which apparently was nothing. I haven't seen that. I've only watched the main show. And the other thing that happened on the pre-show I'll get to in the first match, but yeah, I do think this show needed another match. I think this show needed just more build. This is the first takeover since the live series has begun. So since the 2-hour Wednesday night live NXT, the War NXT, as I'll call it, the Battle NXT against AEW has begun. And I just feel like this one should have been its own thing. And I understand why it isn't, because they want it to be this higher up kind of thing. But I have always appreciated NXT being the underdog that could. And I think that when you try and compete it with Raw and SmackDown, it doesn't work. Not because the talent isn't there. NXT is a far more talented brand, but it's that those brands are on such high pedestals that NXT is just so new, so fresh, you just can't reach them. But anyway, with that in mind, I did go into NXT TakeOver Wargames, still looking at a good show. I was very excited for the card. I was excited for 2 Wargames matches, hopefully that they would be spread out. Hoping they'd be spread out. And I was excited for the women's one. There's some talent in there. The men's one, there's a lot of talent in there. I was kind of excited to see who the 4th man for the NXT team would be. And then the other 2 matches in the middle I knew would be at least good. So we've got a good NXT card here. And what I got in the end was actually a great NXT card. So I will begin at the beginning, where most people begin stories. The first match on the show was the women's first ever War Games match. Now, on the pre-show, Mia Yim was taken out, and basically Rhea Ripley had to find a replacement. The replacement she chose was, of course, Dakota Kai. So that meant that the teams were Team Baszler against Team Ripley. Team Baszler consisted of Shayna Baszler, Io Shirai, Bianca Belair, and the NXT UK Women's Champion Kaylee Ray, against Rhea Ripley, Tegan Nox, Dakota Kai, and Candice LeRae. The first 2 women to start the match off were Candice and Io Shirai, obviously reigniting their old feud. These ladies are excellent. These women are going to get ruined on the main roster. I can already see it now. But Candice LeRae is a brilliant little wrestler. Io Shirai is next gen, like, unbelievable, but Candice LeRae is a far superior version of Alexa Bliss. She's a babyface, which is fantastic, but she's by far the most believable female babyface in NXT, probably in the whole of WWE. The work that she did with Io Shirai here was great. It harkened back to their match in Toronto at the Takeover there. The first woman in was Bianca Belair. She came in, and obviously her and Shirai kind of took over. They took over LeRae and controlled her. The first woman in for Team Ripley was actually Rhea Ripley, which is a bit of a shock. I thought they'd kind of save her, but I understood why afterwards. So Rhea Ripley came in, and her and Candice LeRae took control of Belair, and Shirai, and just really, really good work from all these women. It's very hard to like talk about certain aspects of or certain maneuvers for these women outside of the big things, so I'm not going to. I think you should kind of watch this show and kind of watch all the maneuvers on your own. But we had the third woman come out for Team Baszler, which was Kaylee Ray, the NXT UK Women's Champion. She came in, and I loved the way they presented Kaylee Ray as an important individual. So the fact that NXT UK is a smaller brand, even in NXT, they still treat Kaylee Ray as a big deal. She came out there, changed the game completely, put it on the heel side. Then we had the klaxon go off again, and it would be the third member of Team Ripley. Dakota Kai left the cage and immediately turned around, booted Tegan Nox, destroyed her knee, absolutely destroyed her knee. Rhea Ripley's just in the ring looking at her like, no, don't do this, blah, blah, blah. So Dakota Kai turns heel. Now this heel turn was really well delivered. And I knew it was coming, like everyone knew it was coming, but this was really, really well delivered. And Morrow then explained that Dakota Kai is out of the match, and due to her actions, Tegan Nox is now out of the match. So it is a 4-on-2 situation. Baszler comes down, and it is 4-on-2. We get some really, really good stuff. Bianca Belair with a 450 onto Ripley. Bianca Belair whipping Candice LeRae with her hair, which is in a little bit of a later segment. LeRae would get back at by hitting her with the kendo stick. You had Baszler in there just kneeing people. LeRae and Belair holding Rhea Ripley up as Baszler knees her. You had LeRae and Shirai, as I said, doing some really, really good work. LeRae gave Kaylee Ray a reverse Frankensteiner off the top rope, which was really, really cool, and that then set up Io Shirai's moment of the match, I suppose, where she did a moonsault off the top of the cage to LeRae and Bianca Belair. But in the end, after all of that, it came down to, of course, Rhea Ripley, Shayna Baszler. There was chairs and stuff in the ring as well. They were using chairs. There was chairs everywhere. It was cool. They did obviously a Tower of Doom spot as well, where Ripley and everyone, there was a big powerbomb to a set of chairs. But in the end, it was down to Baszler and Ripley. And Baszler caught Ripley. But earlier on in the match, Rhea Ripley had been handcuffed. And this was good, because while Ripley is in the Kirifuda clutch, Ripley actually handcuffs herself to Shayna Baszler. Baszler is like, oh shit. Ripley hits her with Shayna goes for a knee. Ripley ducks, grabs her, hits Riptide onto two chairs. They're obviously standing up. 1, 2, 3. So Ripley and Candice LeRae beat 4 women. Now, usually, I would be quite annoyed, because obviously the deficit is very large, and it is kind of hard for me to justify Candice LeRae and Rhea Ripley beating Kaylee, Shayna, Io, and Bianca Belair. But in this situation, they made Rhea Ripley, she was a star anyway, but they made her such a star in this match. They made her, her star shone the brightest out of anyone in this match. Io Shirai was great. Bianca Belair was great. Candice LeRae was great. This is probably Kaylee Ray's best performance in NXT so far, well, in the whole of WWE, to be honest. But this was Rhea Ripley's match, and that pinfall over Shayna Baszler surely leads her to getting a NXT Women's title, an NXT Women's Championship opportunity. There is so much they could do now aftermath of this. So Dakota Kai could feud with every member of her team that she took out. Tegan Nox, Mia Yim, Candice LeRae, and then Rhea Ripley maybe for the title if Ripley takes it from Baszler. Shayna obviously will be feuding with Ripley. Candice LeRae could do things. Kaylee Ray could jump over to NXT every now and then. There are so many options in this matchup that excite me. And NXT's women's division, and this is probably the biggest thing I believe they have in AEW, NXT's women's division is flourishing. I really appreciate Riho. I like Hikaru Shida. I like Britt Baker, but Britt Baker's green, and Rio's kind of green, Nyla Rose is kind of green. They have really seasoned workers here in NXT. Candice LeRae, Io Shirai, Rhea Ripley's young, but she's still really talented. Shayna Baszler, These are all really talented. Bianca Belair. So, in rating this matchup, I'm going to give it 4.25 stars. I don't think this was as good as the men's Wargames last year or the one beforehand, but as far as a first attempt for the women for Wargames, this was a really, really good attempt. The storytelling in this one and the emotion was what got it for me. 4.25 stars. These women did a really, really good job. Nobody looked out of place. Everybody got their chance to shine. Really, really good opening match to start the show off on a massive high. And the show, in all honesty, I think may have gotten better from that point. The second match on the show was the three-way between Damian Priest, Pete Dunne and Killian Dane for the number one contendership to Adam Cole's NXT Championship, and that match would take place on Survivor Series tonight. I actually think this is probably one of the most unique three-way matches I've ever seen. This was not a cliched 2-on-1, or sorry, 2 men in, 1 out, 2 men in, 1 out, three-way match. This match was essentially 20 minutes of three-way spots, and it was brilliant. There was the opening segment where they all went for kicks and they all missed was a perfect kind of gif to sum this match up. This is what this match is going to be, just complete three-way spots. And I actually don't want to spoil it, because I think that if you're interested in wrestling and the psychology and the brilliance of wrestling, then you should go watch this. And if you are a young burgeoning wrestler and you ever get a three-way matchup, suggest this idea, because this is a really smart three-way match. It's not the best three-way I've ever seen, absolutely not, but the intelligence and the ring IQ of these three men to pull off all of these spots perfectly, where, you know, Dane and Priest, and they're all going for moves, and Dane will do a move to Priest, and Dunne will do one at the same time. Dunne does, you know, double foot stomps on both men's hands, goes for a kick, misses one, hits the other. Priest did a double spin kick on both men, hit the Reckoning. Dane comes in with like a senton or something like that. It was all brilliant, and it all led to a finish that incorporated that psychology, that style, and it was brilliant. As I said, I don't want to really spoil too many of the maneuvers, because I was literally shocked by the genius of all three men. I think this was probably the best match on the show. I might be the only one that thinks that. I think this was the best match on the show. The conclusion was Dunne had hit I'm just going to say a couple of things. So, I nearly called him Punishment Martinez. Damian Priest hit the Reckoning at one point, but the pin was broken. Dunne hit a bitter end on Killian Dane, the pin was broken. Dunne hit a bitter end on Priest. Dane hit a senton as well at one point. They all hit their finishes, they all hit massive moves. But in the end, Dunne hit a bitter end on Damian Priest. Killian Dane pulled him off. Dunne went for a rear naked choke to Killian Dane. Killian Dane did a senton while Dunne's on his back to Damian Priest, but Pete Dunne stayed on top of Damian Priest, pushed Killian Dane off, hooked the leg. 1, 2, 3. Genius finish to a genius match. 4.5 stars. Just go out your way and watch it. Absolutely love this. 20 minutes, absolutely flew by. Absolutely didn't realise it was 20 minutes, to be honest. 20 minutes, fantastic, three-way match, 4.5 stars. I might be the only person in the world that thought this was as good as it was, but this was as good as I'm telling you. Next match on the show was Finn Balor and Matt Riddle. Now it slowed the pace down, which was fine, and I think that the reason that match was so fast-paced, like, Dane also hit the one-winged angel, which I totally forgot. I can't remember what he calls the one-winged angel. The Ulster Plantation. Yeah, he hit the Ulster Plantation at one point as well. Totally forgot that. But I think the reason that match was so balls to the walls and so different for NXT was because it was a advert for NXT on Wednesday nights. It was kind of that match will be in a lot of adverts for NXT. I can see all those moves being in an advert for NXT just because of how wowy it was. By far the most wowy match on the show. And this match here with Balor and Riddle was a slower match, and that's fine because I appreciate that we have our diversity in our wrestling. So Riddle and Balor slowed things down, not to a halt, but to a slower pace, and that's fine. Balor controlled a lot of the matchup. Riddle hit a lot of his big moves, obviously the bro to sleep, he hit a couple of final flash knees. Balor, though, in the end, got his sling blade. He got his sling blade, he went for the coup de grace. Riddle moved, he hit a final flash knee. Riddle went for the bro Derek at one point, but Balor got out of that. He went for the bro mission at one point, but Balor rolled through out of that, and he did a double stomp, and it was all really, really good stuff, building towards a really cool finish. He hit the ripcord knee at one point, did Riddle. But in the end, got up two. Sometimes he went to the well too often. He went for a second ripcord knee, but Balor caught him after he'd already hit a reverse 1916. He hit the normal 1916, the Bloody Sunday, as Prince Devitt would call it, and for the 1-2-3. So Prince Devitt, Finn Balor, the Prince has returned, as Mario Ronaldo said, or something like that. Finn Balor wins his first takeover match back in NXT, absolutely how it should be. 3.5 stars, not quite as good as the other two matches we've just seen. Still very good, and I imagine still better than the majority of the matches will be on tonight's Survivor Series. Although, to be fair, and this is... It's weird, because the Survivor Series is usually when I start doing videos again. If Survivor Series is good, then I'll review it. If it's not good, I probably won't review it. If there's something on there worth reviewing, then I'll review it. And I think Cold and Done will probably be worth reviewing, so I'd imagine a Survivor Series review will be on the cards. But anyway, 3.5 stars. I thought this was a very good matchup, just wasn't quite great like the two matches I'd seen previously. And then finally, the main event. As I said, 4 matches on the show. It did feel like there was one missing. I said that Angel Garza, Angel Garza, Isaiah Scott match, they could have brought on the main show and given 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Isaiah Scott is great. Angel Garza is great. So they could have had a really good match. But we had the main event, the men's Wargames matchup, the third men's Wargames matchup we've had in NXT. It was the Undisputed Era, obviously Cole, Fish, O'Reilly, Strong, against the team of Tommaso Ciampa, Keith Lee, Dominic Dijakovic, which I've always called him Dijakovic, just because they say he's Croatian. I think Ivan Rakitic, Luka Modric, so I call him Dijakovic. But they call him Dijakovic, so I'm going to call him that. And the 4th team member, which we'll get to in a little bit. So the first 2 men were Roderick Strong and Tommaso Ciampa. They did their thing. The second man in for the UE was Kyle O'Reilly. He came in, House of Fire, some really, really good spots. But it was really until Dijakovic came in that I thought this match kind of kicked itself up a little bit. Dijakovic came in and was really, really good. This is one of the best performances he's had in NXT. Came in, but they all got killed, essentially. All of the good guys, so Ciampa and Dijakovic, got killed when Fish came in. So it was almost like Fish was the veteran of the UE. He's obviously the oldest member. I think he's about 39. And he came in and just sorted everyone out. So they gave a total elimination to Dijakovic. They gave Chasing the Dragon to Tommaso Ciampa. And they just completely controlled the babyface team. Keith Lee comes in, just, again, awesome stuff. Keith Lee, Dijakovic, Ciampa, these are all great wrestlers, right? The problem with NXT on Wednesday nights is not the wrestling. It's never been the wrestling. It's just, and it's not even the presentation, it's just this Raw and SmackDown thing that's kind of seeping into my NXT. I don't like it. And I'm hoping that from now on, it'll be back to normal NXT. I like NXT as it is. I like my Dijakovic, Keith Lee matches. I like my Leo Rush, Angel Garza matches, stuff like that. But yeah, Adam Cole came out as the 4th man, the last man for the UE, and it looked like the faces had no more partners. Adam Cole brought tables down to the ring. He brought 5 tables in the ring, I think, or 4 tables, and then he leaned one against the outside. As he's trying to get in the ring, Ciampa just pushes him for a table, and I thought that was funny, almost, in its simplicity. So they then brought him in the ring, and the 3 faces and the 4 heels just squared off, and the 3 faces were like, we know there's 3 of us, but we don't care, because I've got these 2, Ciampa's like, I've got these 2 massive men. Keith Lee's a massive man, he's a thick man, and then Dijakovic's big, so just big men. And then the timer came on again, and we had our countdown to who was going to be the fourth man for Ciampa's team, and it turned out to be Kevin Owens. Now, this is great for a couple of reasons. It ties into Owens getting attacked on Raw by the UE, and then it also ties into this storyline of is he going to defect to the NXT team at Survivor Series tonight. This is all good. This is all good storytelling, and it all kind of leaves you guessing, because I didn't know who their fourth man would be. I imagined it was going to be Gargano was actually my choice, but obviously he is injured. I would have said Isaiah Scott was my other option, to be honest. But obviously, when he was in the pre-show match, I actually had no idea. So Owens is a really good choice. Not a lot of people would have picked. And this was a very, very good 8-man caged match. They didn't use a lot of weapons, give them a lot of credit, only the tables, but they only came in at the end. And they all did really, really well. Owens took a Panama Sunrise on the middle metal bit between the two rings. Strong gave Keith Lee a top rope Olympic slam. That was really cool. Everyone got sent into the cage a lot of times, especially Bobby Fish. Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly got repeatedly kneed into the cages. Strong was giving everyone forearms. Kyle O'Reilly was immense with his arm bars and his triangle chokes. We didn't get to see any finishes, I noticed. Well, actually, at one point, Ciampa did hit Willow's bell on Kyle O'Reilly just for the lols. But it was towards the end of the matchup where I guess we kind of saw some finishes. So we have everyone's kind of split. So we've got Ciampa and Adam Cole at the top of the cage. We've got Dijakovic in the middle. We've got Keith Lee on the top rope in the second ring on the left rope. We've got Strong and Fish working on him. We've got O'Reilly over here and Owens is up here. So Dijakovic chokeslams Roderick Strong through one ring, goes after Kyle O'Reilly. He goes for chokeslam O'Reilly. O'Reilly catches him in a triangle choke. He puts O'Reilly on the table in the triangle choke, and Owens frog splashes him through the table. Then you've got Keith Lee, who gives a spirit bomb off the top rope to Bobby Fish through a table. And then up top, Tommaso Ciampa lifts Adam Cole up on the top of the cell. He lifts him up on the top of the cage, gives him an air raid crash off the top through two tables. He's on top of him. 1, 2, 3. Tommaso Ciampa, Keith Lee, Dominik Dijakovic, and Kevin Owens win the Wargames match. This is a good sign, I think, because there's more they can do with this. These guys winning than the UE winning. The UE are pretty much all going to get wins back tomorrow. Well, most of them will, or at least 2 of them will. So Ciampa, I imagine, will go after the belt. Dijakovic or Keith Lee could go after that North American title, because either of them has a shot now, because they had a match that never happened, essentially. Yeah, this was a really good match in setting up storylines and doing stuff. They also showed Britt Baker in the crowd after the matchup, which really kind of shocked me, because I was just a bit stunned. Like, they mentioned her as well by name. They said, that's Britt Baker, Adam Cole's girlfriend. They didn't say that's professional wrestler Britt Baker, but I wonder how that'll affect. I don't think AEW would care, but if this was WWE, they would care. As far as rating the match, I'm going to give it 4 1/4, just like the opener. I maybe preferred this a little bit more. The first one had a little bit more emotion. This match had a little bit more chaos, and I think I preferred the chaos a bit more than the emotion. Although, as I said, I think the heel turn from Dakota Kai was excellent. Really, really well delivered, really, really well performed and presented. And that is NXT Takeover Wargames 3. God, there's been 3 of these already. It's gonna get old if they do this every year. That's the one thing I will say. So that is NXT Takeover Wargames 3. As far as rating it, I think I needed a match. 4 1/4, 4 1/4, 4 1/2, and 3 1/2 seems like an amazing show. The usual kind of so the New York Takeover, I think I gave matches like 5, 4 3/4, 4 1/2, 4 1/4. So I needed one more match to be above 4 stars to give this like a 9 or a 10. So for now, I'm going to give this an 8.5 and say this is a very, very, very good NXT TakeOver. Arguably the weakest this year, maybe probably better than the one in Toronto. Not as good as the 25 one, and not as good as New York, but still a very, very highly ranked NXT TakeOver. Great opener, great three-way. Very, very good Finn Balor return to NXT, and a really, really chaotic way to close the show. Bless me, sorry. And to lead into Survivor Series tomorrow night. So guys, thanks for watching. This has been Raw Russell. Like, comment, subscribe for more. Tell me your thoughts. What did you think to NXT TakeOver Wargames 3? What did you think to both Wargames matches? Which one did you think was better? What do you think to Dakota Kai's heel turn? What do you think to Kevin Owens being the surprise 4th man? And what do you think to the bizarre, I would say unique presentation or layout of the three-way between Dane, Priest and Dunn? Thanks for watching, guys. This has been Revolver Wrestler.